Yes, the news is now public. Reuters just published an article about it. Blake Lively's lawyer has officially announced that he's stepping away from the situation she created. Honestly, who can blame him? The case has become so absurd that even Blake seems unsure of what she's doing anymore.
Everything is falling down for you guys because people perceive you as bullies.
Blake Lively's plan to take down Justin Baldoni backfired so badly that her own legal team bailed before the final act. Imagine being so toxic, so deep in your own delusional fantasy, that your high-profile Hollywood attorney, a man who's built a career defending actual criminals, throws in the towel and basically says, "You know what? I'd rather represent a parking meter."
How the New York Times actively vouched for the veracity of its false narrative.
We're talking 64 internal emails and 17 draft filings, all dumped directly into Justin Baldoni's legal team's inbox, like a legal nuke wrapped in a glittery bow. Not out of spite, but because even Blake's own lawyer couldn't handle the circus she created. Daniel Keene didn't just quietly resign, he detonated his exit with a memo literally titled, "This will destroy you."
We want all evidence to come out that's proper and appropriate evidence.
And no, this wasn't a brave attorney guiding his client through a storm. This was a wildfire, one Blake Lively sparked herself. She struck the match, poured the gasoline, twirled through the flames in a designer gown, and expected a standing ovation. Daniel Keene? He just didn't want his name on the insurance claim. And honestly, can you blame him? Not when even Taylor Swift, who once cradled Blake's kids and stood by her for a decade, is now allegedly whispering that Blake is the definition of betrayal. And, let's be real, if Taylor Swift calls you a traitor in Hollywood, that's not gossip. It's a career death sentence with a Billboard ranking.
Taylor Swift's new statement, of course, through her PR, about Blake Lively and some other craziness going on with this entire case.
And here's where it gets downright absurd. You'd think this was a real lawsuit. Facts, evidence, actual harm. Nope. Blake Lively's entire case against Justin Baldoni read more like fan fiction with a law firm letterhead. Daniel Keene later revealed it wasn't legal strategy, it was narrative litigation. Translation. Blake sat down with her publicist, Leslie Sloan, her assistants, and whoever else was in the room, and wrote a script, not for the courtroom, but for public sympathy. This wasn't a lawsuit. It was a Netflix pilot written by a bored influencer. According to Keene, the court filings included BuzzFeed-style quips, Deadpool jokes, and yes, even Hugh Jackman name drops. Because apparently, Blake thought dragging Wolverine into federal litigation was a flex. It wasn't. Internal Slack messages exposed something even worse. Blake allegedly instructed her team to name drop at least 3 celebrities per filing cycle, strictly to keep her name trending. Not for legal relevance, just for tabloid traffic. They even had a name for it: Shock and Seal. The playbook? Leak a dramatic, scandalous story to blogs first, let it go viral, then file a matching court document to give it a false air of legitimacy. What kind of Dollar Tree Olivia Pope strategy is that?
And the Wayfair parties have withdrawn their harassing subpoenas to Taylor Swift and her law firm. We supported the efforts of Taylor's team to quash these inappropriate subpoenas directed to her counsel, and we will continue to stand up for any third party who is unjustly harassed or threatened in the process. Oh my God, what a big laugh.
Keene nailed it when he said, "This isn't a lawsuit, it's a BuzzFeed quiz in a courthouse." And honestly, he wasn't wrong. The only thing missing was a "which emotionally manipulative legal tactic are you?" quiz with the inevitable result, "You're Blake, and if you think that's rock bottom, oh honey, grab a shovel," because Blake didn't just toy with headlines, she allegedly tampered with evidence. You know, the one thing that actually matters in court. She submitted doctored text messages from 2018, presenting them as real, but forensic analysts tore them apart and uncovered manipulated metadata everywhere. It wasn't even subtle, like she dragged a photoshopped conversation into a court exhibit binder and thought no one would notice. What is this? A Pinterest. Board for perjury, and it gets worse. She subpoenaed Justin Baldoni's childhood therapist. Yes, a therapist from decades ago. Why? No one knows. Maybe she hoped he'd testify about Justin's kindergarten tantrums, still not done. Blake also targeted Taylor Swift's fitness coach, claiming they might have witnessed emotional patterns. Emotional patterns? Is this a courtroom or a star chart reading? At this point, the court doesn't just need to dismiss the case, they need to sanction Blake and her husband for wasting everyone's time with what amounts to reality TV and legal drag.
Surprising reversal, Team Justin Baldoni has dropped their subpoena request from Taylor Swift. Now, of course, Blake Lively and most of the mainstream media is jumping on this as a win towards Blake, but it's not. We need to discuss.
And then, get this. Blake files a document that opens with the line, "I am the Jane Doe of modern Hollywood." Excuse me? That's not just delusional. That's full-on trauma cosplay. Keene didn't mince words. He called it trauma porn. Dressed in Canva templates, and honestly, he wasn't wrong. It was aesthetic victimhood, crafted for headlines and hashtags, not for courtrooms and judges. But Blake didn't stop at playing the part. She started pulling innocent people into the mess like party favors in a Hollywood gift bag. She name-dropped Melissa Nathan, Valden Inc., and Jimmy Heath with zero evidence. No proof, no relevance, just vibes and clickbait. The court didn't let it slide either. They labeled it defamation by association, which is the courtroom. Equivalent of saying, Blake made it all up and dragged people through the mud for press.
Justin has withdrawn the subpoena sent to Taylor and her legal team after the firm objected to the amount of the unwarranted fishing expedition, etc., etc.
This wasn't law. It was slander set to iMovie music, filtered through Deadpool quotes with a fake therapist cameo for flair. And let's not pretend Blake didn't know exactly what she was doing. She didn't want justice. She wanted chaos, headlines, and spectacle. In the process, she dragged her legal team into a flaming dumpster of nonsense. No wonder Daniel Keene bailed. The man saw the writing on the wall, and the wall was plastered with BuzzFeed buzzwords, reaction gifs, and bogus subpoenas. And let's be clear, when a witness is actually cooperating, you don't need subpoenas. So, now you've got a Harvard-educated attorney, someone who probably dreamed of real justice, being asked to file a motion that opens with, "as seen on E! News." You can't make this up. Keene looked at that circus and said, "I'm out." And honestly, who wouldn't? Blake built this case on ego, lies, and shameless celebrity name-dropping, and when it all started to crumble, she expected everyone else to help carry the rubble, but not Keene. He didn't just walk, he sprinted, tossed a resignation grenade over his shoulder, and let the entire Blake Lively legal fantasy burn to the ground.
Filing is pure comedy and insanity. It literally contradicts itself, and it's not even admissible because of certain things that are in there.
Let's just take a moment to truly appreciate the level of chaos Blake Lively brought into a courtroom. Because this wasn't a legal battle. No, this was a Broadway audition with footnotes. A TikTok challenge disguised as litigation. Honestly, it felt like Blake thought the courtroom was a red carpet. In just 1 month, her team filed over 12 motions, and not the kind that win cases. We're talking about filings that screamed, "I Googled how to sue someone," and printed, "whatever showed up first." 2 of those motions were actual Rule 11 sanctions. If you don't speak fluent legalese, that's judge speak for "stop wasting the court's time with this trash." And these weren't even real arguments, just straight-up copy-paste jobs. As in someone hit Ctrl+C on a Reddit post and Ctrl+V into a federal filing. That's not legal representation. That's Alt+Tab-level desperation. The judges were not amused. One described her approach as a drama queen routine, which is the most polite way of saying, "This is the dumbest circus I've ever seen in a courtroom." Another judge flat out called the filings legally hollow. Imagine prepping for a serious court hearing and opening your case folder to find a rejected SNL sketch, a Marvel quote, and maybe a meme or two. This wasn't litigation. It was BuzzFeed, Courtroom Edition, and then there's Ryan Reynolds. While playing the charming sidekick in public, behind the scenes he was allegedly on every call. According to insiders, Ryan was actively pitching ideas to Blake's legal team, like including Deadpool quotes, a Marvel pool scene, and even a reference to a Saturday Night Live skit as legal arguments. And the worst part? He was serious. Not drunk, not high, just chronically overconfident. At one point, they even tried to blame Hugh Jackman, as in Wolverine, for influencing public opinion. I cannot stress how unhinged that is. Imagine standing in a federal courtroom and saying, "Your Honor, this is all Hugh Jackman's fault." That's not a defense. It's a hallucination. One court insider reportedly summed it up best. This wasn't a filing, it was a press junket in Times New Roman. And honestly, nailed it. Blake was treating the courtroom like a photo booth. All that was missing was a ring light and a swipe up for justice link. But the real fire starter, the thing that burned it all to the ground, was Taylor Swift's silence. After being dragged into the mess with a fake subpoena, Taylor didn't issue a statement. She didn't post a cryptic lyric. She didn't even throw a subtle Instagram caption. Nope. Taylor Swift did something far more devastating. She said nothing. And in Hollywood, that's nuclear-grade shade.
Taylor Swift, I wish I never met Blake. New humiliation for Lively as singer outs the glaring red flags she missed during their 10-year friendship.
Insiders are whispering that Taylor Swift now tells close friends, "I wish I never met her." That's not disappointment, that's a soul-level exorcism. One source even claimed Taylor calls Blake Lively the biggest betrayal of her life. And this is the woman who dated Jake Gyllenhaal and turned the fallout into an entire Grammy-winning album. So if Blake tops that list, you know it's bad, but it gets worse. Travis Kelce and Sophie Turner have also reportedly cut all contact with Blake and Ryan. Sophie even unfollowed Blake on Instagram, but she's still following Ryan. That's not just a social media move, it's calculated humiliation. It's like saying, "I can still tolerate your husband, but you're toxic waste in a sequin dress."
Just completely disheveled and trying to figure out what's going on. Or at that time, I'm thinking she didn't just say delete text messages. There had to be more context.
Blake's PR team, because of course they're still delusional, tried to claim Taylor Swift was loyal. Girl, no. Taylor's real move? She's voluntarily cooperating with Justin Baldoni's legal team. That's not loyalty. That's testifying. Further prosecution with lip gloss on. Lawyers across LA have noticed. One said, "If Taylor's involved, something toxic must have gone down." Yeah, no kidding. Taylor doesn't do subpoenas. Taylor drops albums. So if she's ghosting Blake, harder than an ex-boyfriend in a hoodie, you already know this isn't drama. It's a verdict.